Alright, a quick review. Got the Twisted Industries. So let me get this to focus. There we go. Twisted Industries LC9 22 conversion slide and magazine. Very interesting kit. I love shooting 22. It's cheap, and yeah, I know if people are watching this feature, they're going to remember how much the little hoarding / shortage issue has been, but yeah, it's a temporary issue. And if you know how to shop or have friends, getting 22 is not that hard. It's just not as easy as it used to be. So we have your slide, your magazine. You can order them with extra magazines. I ordered 2 extras. The conversion is quite simple. You have your standard LC9, pop your magazine out, 60 off, check your chamber, take down lever, press it down, take this slightly back, drop your takedown pin out. Sometimes it comes out easier than others. Just because I have a video going, it's going to embarrass me and make me poke it out. Give me 1 second. You can poke it out from the other side. It's not hard, just a lot of times it falls out on its own. Okay, there we go. Pin out. A lot of times I can pull that out in about 2 seconds. Like I said, video's running, that's why it had to embarrass me. Okay, so now you have LC9 Twisted Industry slide. There's things I like about it, things I don't. First thing I'm going to cover real quick, when you're assembling this, barrel down. Got some major issues. Took me a while to troubleshoot it. Been able to figure it out. Not very easily, unfortunately. But along the inside of this frame, it's smooth and it wedges in. Then coming back, there's a sharp edge right there. It's like a step. This barrel fits just in between that wedge, and then the front of this along here gets caught on that ledge. If that happens, it's not the end of the world, it's just a pain in the butt. Disassemble your frame. You have your main 2 pins. They pop out. Not a huge deal. Like I said, it's just a pain. So to avoid that, barrel down and it won't come through there. I have that problem whenever I try to assemble a barrel up, which is a bad habit of mine. Probably a good habit, but point being, if you do it, you'll have problems. So if you come up, what you're looking for is if this barrel starts righting up, stop. Get it? Insist that it stays forward as you work your way forward. Okay, it's causing me a problem. Let me see. Yep, there we go. Barrel wasn't quite seated right. Let's get that seated in there. Again, minor things I don't like. Once you get the symbol, it's not a problem, but it's not as idiot-proof as I like it to be. Yeah, still giving me trouble. There we go. Okay, that time it's working. That was one thing I probably would change with this. The standard slide, you just pull it back about 1/4 of an inch. This one you lock the slide back. And I think I would avoid a lot of the problems with the barrel if either it had a thicker backing to it so that it wouldn't slide through, or if I only had to pull it back a tiny hair to get this pin in. So once I get this pin in, the barrel can't go anywhere. To get the pin in, I drop it in and wiggle the barrel around until the hole lines up, and it just drops right down in. And then throw your lever back up, Alright, now once you're here, you're pretty much home free. This part operates standard handgun. The couple quirks with this is your standard magazine. That works for one reason and one reason only. Right under here, if you disassemble your frame, there's a slide stop spring. That spring from Ruger is way too strong for this magazine to lift it. I experimented adding extra spring tension to this. By the time I was able to lift the Ruger stock spring, when I let the slide forward, instead of the round coming into the barrel, it shot straight out of the breech. Obviously that's not an option, so tinkered some more, was able to reduce the spring force on this to where it's a nice and comfy, and find it. There we go. It wants to stay down, but it doesn't give a lot of force. It's not as nearly as stiff as it was. So now the slide stop works. Second issue with the slide stop: one round in, it catches the slide stop with one round in. Now this is a 10 round magazine, stock Ruger 9mm 7. If you're using this for training, you're not getting cheated. Just put 8 rounds in, it'll stop on this one. 22 ammo is cheap. If you leave it how it is, it's not a big deal. It'll stop fairly consistently on the second to last round instead of the last round full open. If you want to fix that, it's not rocket science. All I gotta do, it took me a little bit to measure it out and find exactly how things were interacting, but calipers and drill press and an end mill. I was able to get this to focus. There we go. Took 60 thousandths off of one of the magazines. I'll probably do the others later on. There, has no problem. And then there you go. So take just a little bit off of the ledge. And the way that works is, I'm going to show you on the one that I cut, the contrast so you can see. On the follower, the bullet pointing this way, on this side, there's a ledge. And that's what lifts your slide stop. They copied the same dimensions as it was for the 9mm. 9mm is thicker than a 22, obviously. So what it was doing is it was lifting where it would as if it was a 9mm, which leaves plenty of room to leave this guy behind. So by dropping that a little bit, it works now. Now, on that, things I do like about the magazine. I got the magazine, here's the floor plate, it slides off. These are just press fit, there's no locking plate, there's a hole for it, looks like they're thinking about it. I would encourage them to, I think it's a good idea, but it stays in place, it's not a big deal either way. Standard spring, looks like they might have gone hunting for this in a hardware store. If it is an off-the-shelf spring, all the better. I don't like to have to buy proprietary springs. Here's the follower, you can see where I cut it. They do a very nice job of Cerakoting until they had a little hole here for hanging it. Magazine itself, I'm not going to take this one apart because it's aluminum. The more you take it apart, the more galling you do, but the two halves of the magazine are milled out from aluminum and they're dovetailed so they can slide like this. You can slide them all the way apart if you needed to take it apart for cleaning. And then stock Ruger floor plate. I thought that was a very cool feature of them. So you want that extra little finger grip. Again, it press fits very nicely. So this is their magazine with Ruger's floor plate. Now, there's supposed to be 10 rounds for the extended magazines on the 9mm, 7 for the standard. But if 10 just isn't cutting it, these fit too. This is the standard Ruger 10 round floor plate. It fits. To get the spring to not bunch up in the bottom, what you want to do right here is you're going to drill and tap a hole for a bolt. Now the trick with this is you're not going to do it straight down. You have to get it parallel with this line on the edge, and then just inside, so that your spring fits in like this. You don't do this, you're going to have problems because it's not going to line up. It has to line up like that. And then you want the bolt to come in just far enough to keep the follower from lifting all the way out of this lip. An issue with this is if this follower comes up out of the lip, it binds on here. A lot of times it doesn't go back down. You feed the first 1 or 2 rounds and then the magazine jams. So what you want to do is get this bolt so that it comes down and it stops the top of this follower, or actually the bottom in this case maybe, stops the bottom of this follower before it can exit the bottom of this magazine, and it just leaves the magazine, the spring compressed in the bottom of this follower. And that adds a few extra rounds. You can have to tinker with that to figure out exactly how many that is. Personally, this is my favorite setup for these. I don't use these on the carry ones, so the standard ones can seal a little bit better. If I'm just plinking, it's kind of nice to have these. The spare magazines that I carry are always these 10 round magazines. So I can have 1 set up like this and 2 set up like this, and it'll be just like my carry setup. I can load 7 in here, 10 in here, and the round counts will match. So that about wraps that up. The one other thing that I want to point out is I did do just a little bit of shooting. I only used Colibri shooting indoors, so I didn't want to shoot mini mags. Colibri won't rack the slide, but they do fire just fine. They sound like a mouse fart. They're honestly weaker than just about anything coming out of a decent pellet gun, so I really didn't feel bad shooting it indoors. I'll show you in just a second the holes that created. Okay, here's the holes that created. Now you can see this one right here was from the Twisted Industries barrel. This was a M&P 1522. It's a 16-inch barrel rifle. And then this one was a second shot with the Twisted Industries. This was from, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 feet. Sighted it on the 0 or on the O. Comparing that to the alignment over the barrel, really not too bad. Windage was dead on. Elevation was dropped about what I expected it to be. What I did find interesting was this right here. This is not a Colibri. This is a pellet out of a pellet rifle. This one penetrated about twice as deep and expanded about twice as wide. That's what I was telling you earlier. These things are wimpy. Even by pellet gun standards, these are wimpy. Just cracking this open a bit. It's a trusty old McMaster car catalog. If you ever need miscellaneous materials or supplies, they're a good place to go. They have darn near everything. Not advertising for them though. So just going in a little ways, you can see down where the Colibri is just denting. The pellet is still sailing on through. This top one, it dented a little bit better, but man, I mean, this one right here, it's still cut. It's still getting all the way back here. This is where this is denting. So the one thing I did kind of like is out of this short little barrel compared to a rifle, the Colibri performed about the same. I half suspected that it would. A lot of people say that the Colibri, after a few inches, the barrel's just adding drag actually, so I'm not all that surprised that happened. Does seem to perform better in just a pistol length barrel. Later on I'll get out and shoot some decent ammunition, get a better review of live fire, but it functions, it shoots,